What is up, everybody? You know what it is. It's the Fix After Show. So, of course, this is the pilot episode. Sevvy Johnson murders again. Allegedly, corruption is in the police force. Maya is facing some old demons, and we got wolves and chiefs globally. Let's go. Let's get it.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
AfterBuzz TV. AfterBuzz TV. AfterBuzz. What's up, everybody? You know what it is. It's the Fix After Show. It's our first after show for the Fix. Yes! We are super excited for this show. We are going to break it all the way down. I am your illustrious host, Sexy Uncle Lem. You know what it is. Gonsalves. And I got some amazing people with me in the studio. First off, this is my homie.
Yeah.
We are holding it down. We got a couple of shows on our belt right now.
We do.
You know what I'm saying? Angele Taylor is in the building.
Hey, guys.
And we have a brand spanking new host who's making her debut on our show. It's going down. Lauren Mayo is with us.
Hi, happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Yes. So let's get right into it. What are your overall thoughts on this show?
My, overall thoughts. I think this show is going to be very juicy. It's going to be clever. Is going to be some things, some plot twists in it. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's going to take us a place and then it's going to divert us to somewhere else. So I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
Okay.
My overall thought is that Robin Givens did it.
Wow.
Right into it.
Wow.
Right into it. Or Gabe. No, I really like it. I'm really curious to see how they're going to make this go into another season. Mm-hmm. Just like because it's following the case. So that should be interesting to see how it's going to.
And that's also interesting, too. That's one thing that we could probably do some research and talk more about it next week. But I want to say I think it's just for the 10 episodes. Okay. I don't know that they're trying to renew it. I think it's a standalone. But we'll do some research on that and then kind of figure that out for next week.
Right.
But we know it's 10 regardless. We know we got 10 great episodes jumping off. So for me, I think it's really dope because I heard about this show a while ago, and knowing that Marcia Clark, who we know is the infamous prosecutor on the O.J. Simpson trial, which is probably one of the most popular trials ever in history.
It is.
And so she is the executive producer. She wrote on this show. She directed, I believe. Like her hands are all in this show. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's interesting too, running the parallels, because of course we see that there's a lot of parallels to the O.J. Simpson trial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? So we see Sevvy Johnson, real name Sevvy Johnson, and his character, and we see we see this trial. It's very quick though. Mm-hmm. He supposedly is up for murder, his wife, and he ends up getting acquitted, and we see
and the friend.
And the friend, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
then
was
we see
Nancy and Cassandra. Cassandra was the wife. Nancy was the friend.
Right.
He got acquitted for that.
Exactly.
One.
And then we see Maya, who would be Marcia Clark's character, basically losing the case and then, literally moving away. And so it's just really interesting to run these parallels. I'm interested to see how far they take this, because I was super invested when the trial was actually happening. And I remember watching it at the edge of my seat every day, because it was literally one of the first trials that they ever had. Like literally every day they showed the entire trial.
You and half of America.
It was nuts. And then at the time, seeing OJ be acquitted and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Him being an African-American man who usually the outcome is opposite. We see someone like that, especially murdering. Come on now, let's keep it all the way real.
Well,
murdering a white woman.
This African-American man had money.
Right, exactly.
And
he did.
clout.
He wasn't black. He was OJ. His words.
Oh God, yeah, that part.
Reminder.
Yeah, that part. But regardless of what OJ thinks he is, he's a black man, and so being up for that, and so it became obviously it was a trial of the century. But to see him get acquitted, we were like, as people of color, we're like, yes, cheering on. Until later on, and you see him go through some things, you're like, oh man, you really doing a whole lot. But,
Why?
Exactly. But to see the parallels and to see, kind of how that, I really want to get in her brain and see how she constructed. What do you guys think about that?
I think, I thought it was funny. I watched her, like we were talking about, I saw her on The View today, and she was saying that this has nothing to do with me, the first 10 minutes, so it's her story. I just kind of wish Marcia Clark would kind of own that it's her story a little bit, because she's saying, this is not me. She literally said that it's part fantasy, part thriller, but it's not her story, but the first 10 minutes is clearly her story.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the season, but also I'm curious to know if there will be something else after this, or is this going to be like the last thing? Because it's just kind of letting it go a little bit. Like, we've got a couple OJ stories now.
Right. Well, I mean, and then that's probably what I think what she's probably alluding to is that first part was so quick, right? It literally was, it was before the even name of the show came up. All of that happened, right?
Yeah,
so it was very hit, and I think they just wanted to show. So obviously, she didn't move away to the city that, she was, this character is in Maya 8 years later and then ends up coming back. That never happened. Yeah. So that part is fantasy.
Do you think they'll do a lot of flashbacks, though, just to make up for that jump in time? Because they got through it so quickly, the Nancy and Cassandra case, it was open and close as far as we saw on television, and then boom, here comes the new murder.
Right.
The girlfriend, Jessica Meyer. So don't you think they'll do maybe some flashbacks from the former case to kind of flesh it out a little bit more, give us some more detail about the initial case?
I think it's very possible that would happen, like you said, because they did it so quick. But no, hearing what you said, Lauren, in regards to her talking about when she was on The View that she wanted, this is not her story. I'm thinking that maybe they won't. Like maybe they will just keep it at the fantasy aspect and have this new whole storyline and never really go back to that.
The only reason I think they might go back to it is because of Gabe. I think Gabe is going to, as we kind of saw in the trailer, he's going to kind of realize, or maybe it's not true that he's a monster. He's going to be seeing his dad different. So I could see some flashbacks, maybe him even though he was like probably 4. They met at 4, so maybe 6.
Right.
That he'll see. So I could see flashbacks coming in that way to help Gabe's development.
I'm ready to see what was in that black bag.
Right.
I'm ready to see Robin Givens and Gabe.
Oh.
But,
yeah, this is...
Why you ready to see that?
Right.
I just want to know what's happening. Is it real?
Yeah.
Did they just try to trick us?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think it's definitely, this particular episode definitely set it up really nice to see what is going to happen in the future, because there's a lot of, interpersonal stories happening within the context of the entire setting of the show. So when we start out, we do see that, and we talked about this, and you were practicing saying the character Sevvy Johnson's name. So I'm going to give it over to you, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to say it, Angele.
So the actor that plays Sevvy Johnson, we've been practicing. His nickname is Triple A because everyone finds it kind of difficult to pronounce, but is Adewale Akinnuoye-Agbaje.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that was dope. That was dope. Yes, you got it.
Hey.
And for those of you that are Oz fans, he is Simon from Oz. So that was a big character for him. And so, of course, he's known as the London-born actor. And basically, we see what happens with that. And then we see the glimpse of Maya at the end, her losing the case. And she's played by Robin Tunney, who is best known probably for
The
Craft. Well, you like her, The Craft.
The Craft.
But she had a big role.
Movie.
Yeah, she had a big role in The Mentalist. She was Teresa in The Mentalist. So that's probably what she's best known for.
I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah. So obviously, because you said The Craft.
Don't do me.
But she's a great actress, and I'm excited to see what she does with this role. So as we mentioned, 8 years passed. She's in Monroe, Washington, with her cowboy boo, right? Trying to make him a
But
little...
he's still a hunk, though.
A BLT sandwich with no mayo. Shoot! Do you see it? That was off the cuff, son. I didn't even practice
Lord,
that.
No mayo.
I didn't even practice that, son.
Shame on you.
But she's out there living her best life, right? She obviously is, we find out later that she escaped because it was such a hard, trial and took such a toll on her that she just like, I'm out. And so she's been with him. That's her dude. And then we see Matthew, who was her co-counsel on this Sevvy Johnson trial, and he shows up and he's like, yo, he did it again. Basically, they get her back over to L.A. to see about working this case. So
Sucking her back in.
Right. Yeah. So she ends up going back to L.A. and we find out that Sevvy Johnson's girlfriend, Jessica Myers, was killed. And so, of course, they're blaming him, especially with his past. So, again, we see this kind of parallel, from the OJ. Again, I just wonder if they will... Like you said about flashbacks, I'm just wondering, her saying that it's fantasy, I'm wondering if they will give other parallels, because there's a lot of things that are not, the OJ trial. We see the kids, right? We were talking about the kids. I do think, though, Robin Givens' character, which, shout out to Robin Givens. It's good to see her on the screen again.
Yes.
Man.
Oh, she's poked in and out a bit.
She has. But I personally haven't seen her in something in a while. She's been working, of course. But to see her, me personally see her on the screen in this role.
It's refreshing.
It's refreshing, but it's also, I think you were mentioning.
Yeah, she plays it well.
She plays that evil character.
Her, like Lynn Whitfield, like... Y'all know Lem Whitfield, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
hello.
Yeah.
Come on now.
From Thin Line Between Love and
She's been in a lot.
Yeah.
She's like, she was
so
Josephine
well.
Baker's story. Yeah. Lem Whitfield's
Greenleaf
dope.
right now.
Yeah. Lynn Wills died. So we see her, and then she's basically that. We find out later. At first, we see her, and we don't know exactly what it is, but we find out later. And I want to jump to that because that was huge. We find out later that that's his ex-wife, right, the mother of his older children. And so they're kind of talking, and they're having this conversation. And she's just like, I got you. I got you.
Like I always do.
Exactly.
I always show up for you.
I always show up. And you're just like, wait, what's going on? And then she starts talking money because he's just like, he's telling her, like, I didn't do this. I really didn't do this. She's like, okay, that's cool. $100,000 to start. And then, so basically, that tells me, and you guys can chime in on what it tells you, but tells me that she basically lied for him on the first case and he paid her off.
That part.
Is that what you got from that?
I agree. And maybe even help cover a couple of things up. Like he threw off on Gabe, hey, take care of this for me real quick.
Right.
Even though I didn't do it right.
Exactly.
But I need you to hide
But
this
I need
evidence.
you to hide this.
All right.
Do you, I mean, this is super, super early, but knowing what he said, his character, proclaiming his innocence, do you think he did it?
First time, yes.
You think yes?
Second time, no.
So you think no, and he's just trying to prove himself?
Yes, I think with Jessica's case, no.
Okay.
I think the first case, I think yes.
Okay. What do you think?
Even though they didn't flesh it out enough for
Right.
me.
Well,
That's why give us some more to go by.
We know we got 9 episodes left, so
that's true.
there's a lot that could happen.
Right.
What do you think on that regard?
I think that the first time, I don't think he did it either time, but I think the first time he had some involvement that he's like missing out.
Okay.
But I think for the second time, he definitely didn't do it. He may have did it the first time.
Interesting.
Or helped. But the second time, I think he really didn't do it.
We have a viewer.
Yes.
Shout out to Alonzo and Avalon Park for jumping into the conversation. Avalon Park mentioned, I agree, I believe Robin did it, or the son. And also said they didn't look at the opening, it was rushed, but more details of the first wife definitely needed.
Sure.
Yeah, and Alonzo was like, yeah, OJ did that shit.
He, knowing what I know now, he definitely did
OJ
that.
did that shit.
He definitely did that. Like, there's no question in my mind. I feel like he is guilty both times. I'm erring on the side that I think he's guilty both times, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does because, I mean, I feel like he's acting guilty. Now, granted, this is the pilot episode, so maybe that's how they want to play it. And you're talking about, because we do see there's so many characters, right? Yeah. There's a lot going on. Even like we're going to get into a second, even that there's a mole, which that threw me off. I'm like, that was so early to get that.
It was so early.
I was like, yo, already?
They giving us gold.
I actually did
really?
say
I
that
like
it was,
this
y'all
show.
like, who's the mole? I was like, Lonnie.
Yeah.
Reveal Lonnie.
Yes.
Oh, so you was on it.
She did call it, and then like seconds later.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bet. I had no clue. I was in the dark. I'm thinking Lonnie is just pissed because Maya's back and is taking her head spot,
And
you know,
she is
type
the
thing.
best.
So, right.
And she said so begrudgingly.
Exactly.
She's the best. She
Which
does.
is really interesting because if, you know, we know that obviously she's the mole, but if she was leading the case, what that would have happened. Basically, he would have been for sure innocent. She would have sabotaged the case. Yeah. So now it's just interesting that again, that's why it points to guilt, because if he's innocent, why have a mole? Why do you have someone on the force working for you? Do you see what I'm saying?
The mole isn't, it's not Sevvy's mole. It's Ezra Wolf's mole. So, like, he just cares about the money. He doesn't care about if he's innocent or not. So I could
win the case. Yeah.
He's trying to get old boy to not beat him up. Twan.
Twan.
Rolled up. Well, sorry, let's
Twan.
that. But
yeah.
He's trying not to get.
So you think, okay, so you believe the whole mole, he just works for him specifically. Yeah. But it just, again, okay, I'm still sticking to what I say. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to get what it actually is, or what it turns out to be, because, again, this is the first episode. But I think it's crazy what they're showing us, and we can just go so many different ways. Before we move on to our next topic, Angele, you have something to say about AfterBuzz.
Yes, I have to address our viewers right now.
Yes.
Hey, AfterBuzzers, we just wanted to thank you so much for allowing us to be the ESPN of TV talk. And we just so want to continue to grow, and we need your help to do that. So if you're on YouTube watching us right now, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and any other shows that you may watch. And if you're on the podcast right now listening in, iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, jump in on the comments, and have some feedback for us. Tell us what you think. And also, thank you so much for being a part of our channel and allowing us to be so great here at AfterBuzz. And we really appreciate your support. And tell your friends about us so they can tune in too.
All of your friends. Tell them all. All right, so getting back into this, there is another person that could possibly have done it that's been floating around. His name is Ben Mitchell. He was the one that discovered the body. And but
Jessica was his trainer.
His trainer, correct.
Because I was looking at him because I thought it was the other way around. I thought he was her trainer. I was like, how was he training? Never mind. Okay.
Wow, dang, just because he has a dad bod? Is that what you're saying?
No shade, no TT.
Okay.
All the shade.
Okay, that was some shade. Poor Ben.
Body
But
shaming.
he might be the killer.
Sure,
so
sure.
I ain't mad.
But he was the one that discovered the body. So of course Wolf is saying like, yo, y'all didn't even, the police. He has his own little private press conference, not private, but his own little press conference to maintain his client's innocence. But what I thought was interesting, going back to the parallels of the OJ situation, he brought up race. And that was a huge thing in the OJ trial. Race played a huge part, and that was Johnny Cochran, his attorney, was basically saying that the police basically were racist. One in particular, the lead detective, Mark Furman, and so that's why they, pinned it on OJ. And so they use that a lot. So to bring that back into this, saying that, look, you're not searching, this guy because he's not black. You want on my client because he's a man of color, and you want to see him go down. So that's interesting. And then, of course, we see towards the end of the episode, him running, having a necklace, and then him running and throwing it in a dumpster. What did you think that was about?
Ditching the evidence, maybe?
Yeah, something
Covering
that
his
definitely
tracks?
belonged to her.
Well,
That
yeah,
was
sure.
at his house.
Maybe something he
Possibly. Or maybe she had it on the night of the murder, and I don't know. We're gonna see.
This is my little assumption.
Come on, Lem.
So remember when I think it was CJ, who we haven't talked about yet, but she also works for the district attorney, and she and Maya were like homegirls.
Oh, yeah.
She was homegirls, and when Maya first came on the scene back, she just kind of dismissed her.
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey, CJ."
She
She's
was
like,
salty.
super salty.
Yeah.
But we find out, she has reason for it because they were really close. And Maya just bounced. Didn't tell her
was
she
big
was
mad.
leaving. She was big mad. She's like, you just left and didn't even tell me, and I didn't find out 3 months newspaper or whatever. What's up? And she explained herself. She's like, but I should have told you. She did say she should have told her. But she's, doing her little investigative work, and she says that there is the assumption that they were possibly sleeping together, or in some type of relationship.
Right.
Which I believe is the case because we do know, and we saw, kind of jumping around here, but it's all good. We did see that there was a videotape. So they end up talking to Sevvy's daughter, who coincidentally, yes, was the person that introduced him to Jessica.
Right.
They were roommates. And so,
Ew.
Right. I just can't, like, that's really bad.
Like, how do you?
I just can't, like how do you?
Literally your daughter's age.
Yeah,
like,
and then you have like, yeah, it's just sounds
She was
bad.
born the same time your daughter was.
Yeah, it's just.
I heard the daughter's birthday was actually earlier in the year than her. I'm just kidding.
Good night. Good night. She got some details.
She's doing too much. So, but we see that she mentions about this storage locker that they press her on, and so she basically takes them there. There's a camcorder there, and they see that she kind of did this video, which she had visibly.
She did a video diary of her beat down.
Correct. And so we find out that, oh, this is probable cause, obviously. Now, the way I go back to, oh boy, dad bod, Ben Mitchell, who could never be a trainer. That's not my words, yours.
Wait a minute. We're not going to get on how you talk about Spencer on the other show.
First of all, don't bring up other shows. We're talking about The Fix right now. Let's stay on topic. So I feel like she was someone he was someone that she confided in. Right? Mm-hmm. If that's happening, she's someone he confided in, and which also, again, going back to the OJ trial, that was something that was kind of talked about as well, because Ron Goldman was the guy that was murdered alongside Nicole Simpson.
Yes.
And so there was rumor that they were dating, right? And he was jealous or whatever and killed them both.
Is Ben Mitchell next?
So interesting. So I think that whole necklace, it was a keepsake, and he's like, I got to ditch this because I don't want to be, blamed for the murder. That's what I think. We see also, we talked about his ex-wife and that whole, exchange, but you had brought up about that obviously Wolf is in some financial trouble. Yeah. And what was his name again? Twan came and paid him a visit and hit him with a crowbar in the stomach.
Would you peg him for a Twan?
Twan rolled up. He rolled up and was like, yo, where's my money? And so we see that Mr. Wolf has some financial troubles. And when he talked about spread, that's a gambling term. So it sounds like he has some gambling debts that he needs to pay. And he's basically, this is his cash cow. He's like, yo, I'm taking this case. This is going to bring me a lot of money. So hold off. I'll be able to pay you. So Wolf is just dirty. What do you think about Wolf's character? Like, what do you think him taking on the case? Do you think that, obviously there's a mole situation. Do you think that he's all the way dirty, or do you think that there's anything, I mean, it may be early to tell, but do you think there's any redeeming quality with him?
No redeeming quality.
Zero.
I think that there is. I think there's a redeeming quality to everybody.
Girl, bye.
I mean, that's what makes a good character on a show. I feel like he's going to be the person everyone kind of hates in the beginning. Then you're going to learn something about him. And you're like, oh, we still hate you, but, like, we get it now. Mm-hmm. Maybe?
Kind of like our president?
Oh. Not at all.
Whoa. Did you really bring that up?
Sorry.
Wow.
I digress.
Wow.
I digress. Hey, we're talking about redeeming qualities. And I just want you after the show to... Let me know what you think.
All right, we'll talk offline.
Okay. Getting back to the episode. We see that also Maya's boo comes and pays a visit, scares the crap out of her. She has a gun, and he just, shows up. Which, dude, what are you doing? Why are you sneaking around in her house? Like, that's a no-no. And she lives in L.A. We don't know what part of L.A., but still, you don't do that. This ain't the country. Ain't no horses around here. There's, like, people. So don't do that. So he does that country self. You like him, though. Anyway, he almost gets shot.
Is he not a hunk?
He is.
He's a hunk.
River.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
I'll let you say it. That's fine. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to him. I'm just saying.
Of course not. I'm just saying.
I mean,
a hunk is a hunk is a hunk.
Thank you. Anyway, so.
Did I throw you off?
No, you did not. You never throw me off, ever. So he shows up, and he's kind of wants to be there for her. They've been, away for a while. She had called him, left a message. They miss each other. He shows up, surprises her. That's what he was trying to do. But then as she decides, she's kind of in the middle. She's kind of deciding, do I take this case? Do I not? She's helping her boy out. and then basically decides, look, I need to take this case. And then he's unhappy about that. He's like, wait, but you're not going to come home. Like, I really want you to come home. Like, why do this to yourself again? Because obviously it's been 8 years. She probably talked to him a lot about what happened, in the previous case and how much it affected her.
And how she went down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. He doesn't want to see that happen to her again. Now, what do you think about him wanting her to come back? Do you think he's justified in that? Or do you think that he should just let her do what she needs to do?
I think he needs to let her do her because obviously she's passionate about it. That's why she went back in the first place. And it's like unfinished business. And it's kind of her calling, her own personal vendetta to, get Sevvy, like, justice needs to be served in this case because you can't get away with 2 murders. So she needs to prove that he did both or that he did one. Like, there still needs to be justice on at least one of these murders, if not both.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I get River's perspective, though, because I remember in the beginning when she was talking to Matthew and she made a point to say, we're not married, though. And then how he brought up later.
Oh, yeah.
He brought up later,
I did catch that.
Why did
there
you sell
was
this
some
house?
tension there.
I think River wants more of a commitment out of her than she's willing to give.
Right, because that did come up about the marriage, because her co-counsel did get married to a reporter. Said she was there for me when
she
you
seemed
left.
a little salty about that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what you got?
Felt the tone was a dig. Like, you married the reporter? Oh, okay. And then he was like, she was there for me.
Right, right.
Like, she didn't run away. She was there for me after the trial. You did. And she's like, well, I didn't get married.
But the reporter was kind of like, she felt away too. Because she was like, you're not going to be the fall guy for her again, basically. Like,
exactly. So I would like to see those two, you know, in the same room.
What's interesting is going back to the parallels of the O.J. Simpson case. So, and we see this, and I didn't really know about this when the case was going on, but when they had the show, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which was amazing, by the way. I didn't think I would like it. So I'm like, I know about this case. I was there, I heard about it. But then it was a lot of things that they did. And the acting was amazing. And there was a lot of things they showed that a lot of us didn't know that happened behind the scenes. And there was kind of a little situation where Marcia Clark and her co-counsel, his name is Christopher Darden, they supposedly had a little fling situation that like may or may not happen. It was just a rumor situation. In the show, she goes to Oakland where he's at. And they kind of go together. Yeah. Okay. Shout out to the Bay.
Hey.
So goes. That was terrible. Anyway, it's like, but she goes with him to Oakland, and they kind of just. I mean, it's just really flirty and really, they got really close over this case. Like they were around each other 24/7. And happens. So I'm thinking that maybe. And we might see this in the future that maybe they had something going on. And when she said, oh, you married her thinking like, well, what about us? And his thing is, well, you left me type thing. She was like maybe the rebound.
She was there, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
She
like,
was the rebound.
She
knows it.
So I think that we're going to see more with that. But I think there's something with that. Because the fact that he rolled up, she's chilling in Washington, right? Got her country boo that you guys love, hanging out with the horses, eating BLTs with no mayo, like dry ass BLTs. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so they're hanging out and he rolls up and just like that is like, yo, he did it again. And she's out.
Yeah.
There's some history there. So I'm just saying.
The fact that he had to explain why he got with the reporter.
Yeah.
That was enough for me to go,
Right, exactly.
Things that make you go,
Remember in the beginning on the elevator getting off for the first case, they were
they
holding
held hands. Yes.
I mean, there are other lawyers a part of the team, but they're the only ones holding hands, like CJ,
I'm just saying.
played by Miranda Dungy. Love her.
I'm just saying.
And then they let go immediately as the doors swung open.
Yeah, mystery.
I'm just saying, I think that there was something going on, and I think it's going to be revisited.
Definitely.
Especially the fact that we know she's staying. And I don't know if we're going to see Riv again. He's going back to the horses and dry BLTs. So,
love triangle.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting that he's back. And I thought it was very telling the fact that, he asked her, he's like, yo, it's interesting that you never sold this house here in LA. he said unfinished business, which you could make that to be a lot of things. Unfinished business about the case, unfinished business about her dude. I'm just saying.
That part.
Just saying. So, I mean, Riv he's a country boy, you know what I'm saying? But I think he's piecing it together and just like, I think I see what's up. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But I'm positive that there's going to be something with the co-counsel and they're going to get back into things. I think so.
Okay.
You had brought up an interesting thing with the stepson. So, tell me his name again. Gabe. So you had brought us something interesting with Gabe, which I didn't catch, but I wanted you to bring kind of that out to light. The relationship with Gabe and Sevvy.
Yeah. Well, Sevvy said that they met when they were 4, and then in the courtroom in the beginning, you saw that's the first person he went to. Of course, he was like to the Wolf. He was like, yeah, and then he went straight to because he was probably like 6 then to comfort him. So he's kind of taking him in as his own.
Right.
And
he calls him dad.
Yeah, obviously, right? And I thought it was funny too because is that a parallel to? I wasn't around for the OJ trial, but was it?
What you mean you wasn't around?
I don't think I was.
You
wasn't
weren't born
in the 80s? What?
No.
Was it in the 90s?
It was in the 90s.
Okay, if I was there, I wasn't watching it.
You don't remember it. That's fine.
I don't remember it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, don't say nothing else.
It's okay.
About it, okay?
It's okay.
Okay.
But you were asking about a parallel. You were asking if something was a parallel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, boo.
Sounds familiar.
Thanks for the judgment.
Oh. Go
Okay,
ahead.
there's a lot going on here.
No,
a lot of shots.
it's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We do too many shows together. That's why.
Didn't he have something with the son too? Like OJ, didn't his son? They were saying his son was involved.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So OJ, it wasn't OJ's stepson. It was his biological son, right? Because he was married before Nicole Simpson. He was married previous, which we do see here. That is a parallel. And he had 2 children with his first wife. And so his son from that marriage, when the trial was going on, that was a speculation that his son could have possibly committed the murder because when he was on the stand, he just was very, he had some anger issues, put it like that. And so they were just in general, like he just seemed like an angry person, and like he kind of just was defiant, like when the people were questioning him, on the stand. And so they were like looking at that, and I think they might have like kind of looked at his history and maybe saw some history of like maybe not violence but just some issues in relation to that. So that was one of the things that they said he possibly could have done it, the son.
Yeah, so I think some of that's going to kind of play out into this too with Gabe. And then also at the press conference, was that another son? The
black
because he reacted,
young man behind him.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Where's Star?" Remember that?
That was during the trial?
During the press conference?
Oh, the press conference.
Yeah, because he was like,
and that's when they cut to Star letting them into the storage.
But if you notice, they were like, he was like, yeah, we got your back, Dad, Gabe said. And then it was like maybe perhaps the black son kind of rolled his eyes and looked to the side.
I think
so is that like a thing that there
was
too?
A son.
Yeah, like, but maybe he feels like he's ignored for this, Maybe. Not even real.
If you guys in the chat know whether or not that was supposed to be a son of theirs, let us know, because we're kind of like having a gap here.
I feel like he probably
I know
is,
you guys don't know, but it's cool.
I was just saying,
well, you don't know either because you don't even know the scene we talking about.
First of all, I do know the scene. You brought it back to my remembrance.
Remembrance.
No,
I
think I'll put it like this. We obviously, the daughter, she, Star, we got some time with her, so we know exactly who she is and her involvement and how the connection. Gabe, we got some, we know his situation. That person that you're referring to, we didn't get anything with that. So it could also just be a family member, could be somebody that's close to him in regards. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a son, because he didn't mention, but we do see that he had a young daughter that he was playing with, which I think it looks like is from the wife that was murdered.
Yeah,
right. So just based on the way she looked. So and the fact that she was so young as well, because the other children, obviously the daughter's in college, the one they had with the first wife. So if he is a son, I'm sure it'll come out somehow or some way.
I said that to say I think maybe that's gonna be something that comes up later. Like even a parallel, like maybe a son versus son thing. Maybe he's not a son. I don't know. I could be jumping. I just thought it was weird because he definitely reacted. I don't know. Like he literally was like, "Yeah, Dad, we got your back, Gabe." And then he literally was like,
"Yeah." Just
like,
rolled his eyes.
This guy thinking that he's the real son. Just saying.
Alonzo said the rumor was that the son actually did it and OJ just took the blame.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that rumor too.
Yeah, no, that was what was circulating. I mean, there was so many things.
Theories.
It was so many theories because the case was wild. Like when it came out, it was just so wild. And even afterwards, I don't want to get too much on OJ because it's not the movie, but he even like wrote a book like If I Did It, and then had a whole like
Someone else
interview.
mentioned that in the comments.
How dumb are you to be acquitted of murder and then be like, so if I did it, and then write a book? Like, yeah, it's just like, dude. But anyway, it's just that whole situation
because
was
of the
crazy.
double jeopardy thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't be exactly. Which coincidentally, we see, and this is a kind of another parallel I see in this, is that OJ was acquitted, but when he went to jail for stealing his own stuff, paraphernalia, they threw the book at him. Like they gave him, I want to say might have been the maximum, but he spent some time in jail. And I almost want to say like that's makeup. Yeah. And we look at this with Maya.
Like, we've been waiting to get you.
Right, exactly. With Maya, it's a situation, where he was acquitted before. She's like, because you think about it, she was living a good life over there in Washington. She seemed happy. But to come back and have to deal with all of this again, that means that there's something there that she's unresolved and she wants to make sure she gets him. And we see that standoff at the end, which was very telling when they go, the search warrant, they get a search warrant and they're just standing and you see I
love that shot.
Yo, that was crazy. That was
shot
dope.
Was everything.
That was dope. How
dope. They were straddled right in between.
I was like, come on in. Did you miss me?
Right. Yeah, rolled up on him.
This is personal.
Right, exactly. So I think it's time to get into predictions. Let's do that.
Bow, chicka, wow, wow.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right. Angele, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Going into, obviously, there's so much that is left, hinged on. So what do you think going into the next episode? What do you think we're going to see?
I think you're going to see a dead Ben Mitchell.
Oh. Wow.
I think you're going to see a lot of twists and turns between the siblings in the case. Star and Gabe and the unknown, the possible son.
Right.
I think also you might even see another woman involved with Sevvy. I think there may be another woman pop her head into the game. I think also there's some trickery going on with the ex, Robin's character.
Oh, I mean, for sure.
Well, like even like her and Sevvy still sleeping together.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, that type of trickery.
Okay.
So yeah, those are my predictions.
Okay.
What about you, Lauren?
Well, there's so many ways you can go with this. I think for sure Maya is gonna have a lot of. I wouldn't even be surprised if she got like a stalker or something. She's gonna have an obstacle because it's going too smoothly for her at this point.
Maya.
Like, yes. Like,
I don't know how smooth
or,
it's going.
you know what I'm saying? Like, she's coming back. She's like, yeah, this,
Did you
this,
hear
and
the
that.
daddy?
Okay, we ain't worried about Mr. Meyer. Sorry, Mr. Meyer, but we're not really worried about you.
He was not. That was cold though. Like
that was terrible.
That was because it looked
reversal.
like he was going to just be like, oh, you're here, like happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he was just like, why my daughter's dead. So
because you can do your job right the first time. You're so incompetent on national
like,
TV.
He went in on her, but that was crazy. But go ahead.
I just think that, but I still think that something's gonna happen. Like she's gonna get a stalker. Someone's gonna start sending her, making it even harder for her. I think that's definitely gonna happen. And I do think that there obviously is something else going on with Robin and Chevy. I wouldn't be surprised. Sevvy. Chevy is that
truck.
Yeah. About to drive home. But I do think that there's gonna be some kind of relationship there between them. And I'm really excited to see what happens with Gabe. I think we're gonna learn a little bit. Like, Gabe has a dark
hung
side.
up on Gabe.
Well, I kind of love him as an actor because I've seen him in something else, so that could be why too.
Oh, okay.
I think Riv is gonna get the boot too.
Oh, Riv, I don't think we'll see Riv. We might not see Riv ever again. No, I'm for real.
Her mind is made up. She said,
staying.
hold on.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm back home.
Boy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so I think basically, I'm just really, I don't know how this is gonna go, but Lonnie, the mole, right? I'm really excited to see what happens with her because now we know, she's working for Wolf.
She's gotta die.
She's like, kill her. Wow.
You killing her, Ben.
But I'm just curious to see how, how that all plays into because, she works with the DA and how, she feels some kind of way, of course, about Maya, but for a number of reasons. Took her position, but also because she's dirty. So seeing that play out, I'm very, interested in seeing Sevvy's ex, played by Robin Givens, how her whole, because she just looked, $100,000, son. I got you.
Jules, that's her name.
Yes, Jules.
That's the character.
So, so seeing how that plays out as well. So, I just think like overall, it's really cool. It's a really good show. It's got me hooked. I'm really decided to see which way it goes and how it all plays out. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our show. Want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you everyone in the live chat. We're super excited about the next episode. Make sure you stay with us when this is on YouTube. Make sure you comment and let us know what you think. Some of the things that we brought. Do you like the parallels? Do you think that these parallels are true for the O.J. Simpson? We'd like to know your thoughts. Let us know. Keep the conversation going. I have been your host, Lem Gonsalves, and you can find me everywhere at Lem Gonsalves. Angele, where can people find you?
You can find me at Angele Taylor. That's ANGELE _
Yeah. And Lauren, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Lauren Out Loud and on Twitter as Lo Out Loud.
Dope. Yes. Next week we will see you, and we promise we will have guests in the studio. We promise it's gonna be dope.
Hey.
We will see you next week. Peace.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.